Ladies and gentlemen, the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy. And today we have an anomaly because we're not broadcasting on our main YouTube channel, which is actually this one, but we have another one. No, yeah, another one, which is also rather popular. So I hope everybody will tune in at the same time. We are broadcasting though on all our pages on Facebook. So hopefully we're going to get some people tuning in and starting to post like we're seeing already. Okay, so before mentioning the sponsors, because of course we have to mention the sponsors, let's start with the music. What is music? Geometry Solidified. Today, exploring the Illuminati Occult Part 23. And 23 is a particular kind of number, eh? Leo and Christy, Saturday, 10th of June of the year of the Lord 2023 for the 23rd episode of this particular series called Exploring the Illuminati Occult. And at this point...
Can I say hi to Bruce because he's one of our sponsors?
Well, we will not only say hi, but thank our sponsors because you know them better than me.
Okay, so this week was really great for sponsorships for the Leo Zagami Show, and I want the sponsors to know that we are very, 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 very grateful. I can't speak about this music.
Okay, just a second, because I have a problem. I didn't insert the microphone. I have only the internal microphone. So maybe now they should... better and people will hear everything. So sorry for that. Okay. Maybe we can
start over.
No, they listen to you. They know what. Can I
thank the sponsors now?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if you just heard what I said because it was this mess up, but thank you very much for the sponsorship of our show this week. We are really, really appreciative, and it's never been so great. So thank you very much. Okay, so Philippe Beller, Mikkel Krog, Bruce Kodich, and Pina. But thank you, everybody for joining us today, and everybody who buy the book, and everybody who
buys the books.
Okay,
because
buys the books.
Variety.
And everybody that loves us and can't afford to buy the book, but they still love us, and God knows that, and we love you too. So.
Okay, no worries. We're gonna, of course, put the on the screen one of the means they can. Donate, which are of course GoFundMe, Fundly, and Cash App if you are in Great Britain or the United States. Here we are with GoFundMe. I'm just gonna put it on the screen. Okay, FB is working. Well, FB is working. We, like I said a moment ago, unfortunately, one of our YouTube channel has been blocked. Not because of the English show.
The Martians did it.
The Martians did it. Because when you say the Martians, especially now,
I Marziani?
I know, but people will think they're real Martians. The Martians are like a team that works together with the Italian show. But yes, they got us a little in trouble. Italian comedy.
Somebody didn't have a sense of humor.
Yes, so
and they're probably Italian. So we find Italians don't have very much of a sense of humor.
Sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they have the best sense of humor, though. But if they don't think you're funny.
Okay. So the subject of today, sacred geometry and energy portals. Now, of course, people will start wondering if we are here starting to channel I don't know what and open you to a world of crystal new age. No. But of course, sacred geometry, it's in nature, and it's in everything. Sacred geometry can't be evil, you see, Christy, because it's part of us. It's part of this universe. Which is manifesting through an equation. So we have, of course, symbols which are triangular, symbols which are circular, and they each have their own specificity. And so it's important to understand that sacred geometry It's of course reflected in temples, it's reflected in buildings, particular kind of buildings. Sacred geometry will bring us all the way to ancient Egypt and of course Mesopotamia. Ancient geometry is something that, like I said, you find in various representations, because Pythagoras gave us a very clear idea of how geometry is music solidified, and it's basically a way that we have to enter a reality at times, to get some energy. I mean, if you, for example, design something in a specific way and then you blow with the wind, you will get obviously a particular kind of sound. That's why then when you have a series of buildings built in a certain way, then you have the wind blowing in, and it really sounds like, and if those buildings are built in a really beautiful way in accordance with the sacred geometry that pervades this universe, then we get really an incredible balance, harmony, also in our body, our mind, our spirit, when we are in those buildings. Like I said, triangles in sacred geometries are thought to symbolize balance and harmony. Circles are basically the infinite loop that we find also in the PI, no? So pi, yes. And then we have the square. No, the square lodges are now more, the squared, because the mason needs to square them at each corner. Hello to Kristen Harris, our friend also, who is intervening from the, how is it called, runaway or rundown?
Rundown Live.
Okay, Kristen, last week we featured your interview. So if you want to go and check it out in the episode we dedicated to ufology.
We really liked your comment.
Absolutely. So, as I was saying, each, a spiral. The spiral is something we find in a snail that is going around, but the same golden ratio is then expanded and is also referred to the Fibonacci sequence. So it's reflected in nature. You have these beautiful images in nature that really reflect the this pervading sacred geometry that, like I said, of course, it's more present in certain buildings of various traditions, not only churches, though today we will talk about the church of Chartres, of course, but we also want to remind the Freemasons, for example, nowadays when they go into a lodge, you were initiated into a Masonic lodge, but that was a church, it's squared, a square. But in old times, it was actually shaped in the form of a cross, like I mentioned in volume 4 of my Confessions. And like I say in this book, which of course is still an important book that you should all purchase, volume 8, here I talk very much about the relation between the music of the spheres, geometry, and of course, we have to start this show with something we filmed last week while I was at Continent in the Desert. Yes. When I was at Continent in the Desert, I filmed something interesting.
Got a lot of good material. You should go around more.
Yes.
Maybe we should.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Leo and Christy Zagami tuning in. Today we are broadcasting, unfortunately, only from one of our YouTube channels. The other one is blocked. Oh! Okay, so I want to start this this whole episode just giving you an idea now of what people think, because some people have they're very involved with sacred geometry. They do sacred geometry jewels. They go all kinds of things. So I wanted to first of all start from this funny experience, a contact in the desert with sacred geometry, and my friends here present, Dave and the others. Contact in the desert with your name and surname.
Samuel Kibash.
Now, Samuel, you have a very interesting pendulum here with a symbol that it's almost Masonic if that square was upside down, but you are telling me that it comes from a crop circle.
It does.
Tell us more about it.
It's, I was told by two separate people that it's a 10th dimensional Arcturian amulet.
Arthurian as in King Arthur?
No, Arcturian from the star system.
Okay.
Arcturus.
Arcturus. What kind of energy you think is emanating this symbol?
I think it's uplifting and harmonious and integrating. And I have a clairvoyant in Sedona. I have a video of what she felt when she put it on.
Now, you told me that you have also a photo of this crop circle. Maybe later we'll
Yes.
check that out. But
You want me to bring it here?
yeah, it would be great.
I'll go bring it.
Last thing, the colors, you said they were done in India with your family in India.
Yes.
Why?
We collaborated about what colors would be most appealing.
This is very interesting, guys. Everybody has to analyze the symbol and come back to me.
Who's Arcturus?
Okay, now it was interesting. Of course, we are, in a situation in which you have basically a lot of New Agers. It's the home of all New Age when you are there. You have all things New Ages. So we will talk about Arcturus in a little while, because definitely it's a recurring theme in, let's say, the New Age movement from the times of Edgar Cayce, let's say. Arcturus and of course the way that the guy is presenting it to us is typical of that kind of, because you have to understand, New Age was presented to the world really in the early 70s, no? But it also inherited not only, of course, all the work of the Theosophical Society that really led to this New Age movement, but also inherited the UFO religions of the 50s, for example. So it kind of mixed under the same group a lot of things. I want to show you, though, the second part of what this gentleman is saying, because I find it interesting as an example, of course, of what people believe when they are really actively involved in this, how you want to call it, sacred quest for the sacred geometry, dimensional Arcturian amulet manifested on Earth as a crop circle on July 24th.
That can't be good.
Wow, let's see.
That's
Okay, here.
Venus, the goddess.
So this is the original crop circle here. In honor of this gift from the galaxy, we are launching a club on our dedicated website, intergalacticfriendship.com. Wow, thank you for introducing me to this very interesting symbol. If you see the benefits of it, it must be positive.
Well, it's a catalyst for creating this club.
And how is this club going?
It's open to everyone as long as they come in peace. And it's open for people from this planet and beings from other planets and other dimensions.
Your name again?
Samuel Kivash.
As we're doing the second part of this video, I will publish it in 2 parts. I just wanted to ask you again, I want to really thank you very much for introducing me to this symbol.
Sure.
That we will be analyzing in the, I guess, in the weeks and months to come.
Good.
I guess you had a lot of people already saying their own opinion. What is the recurrent opinion that they have on this symbol of yours?
They love it. They feel tremendous energy of harmony and integration. And I have a video taped of a woman who put it, as she was putting it on, she's a clairvoyant from Sedona. And I can play it for you if you want.
Clairvoyant from Sedona?
Yeah.
Even that.
It could be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's play it.
Okay. If you go to Sacred, my name, Samuel Kivash.
So you have it on a website?
I have it on this website.
Okay,
At
so
the bottom of the website?
people can go there and see it.
Yeah.
Yes, the bottom.
That's it.
Go to
Intergalactic
intergalacticfriendship.com. Okay. We'll go that route. It's on YouTube also.
Now, any criticism?
No.
No, just in general, that
I've had
anybody came up.
Masonic people come up to me and say, "Is this Masonic?"
That's it. That's it. I told you.
And I said, "I think it's beyond Masonic.
Beyond Masonic.
It's for the people beyond 23rd degree, the higher level, the higher pyramid."
Higher. We like high. Not too high, but quite high. I guess that we,
At the bottom.
here we have our great DJ friend. What's your name?
Sun Yoga.
He's a cosmic one, huh? Okay, so here we are on the website, and this is the clairvoyant,
She's a very beautiful woman, as are you.
and speak.
She's 35, she looks 20.
Samuel, this is Amy.
Join
Hi.
us,
Samuel.
He
He makes these pedals, sells them all over the
Amulet.
Oh, very
All over the world.
All over the world.
we go.
awesome.
Anyway,
Very cool.
Can you hear?
She looks like she's doing the hula hop. She's moving around.
it sounds very American.
She's talking about the energy
The energy that surrounds the.
from wearing the pendant.
From wearing the pendant.
Can you hear?
It's so low.
No, but we will then go on the website. I invite people to go on this website, and then make your mind up on this new symbol that appears, to interest very much the Freemasons, but also ordinary beings, because it's something that comes from above.
It's also a symbol for NASA, and it's a symbol for Space Force.
It appeared in Wiltshire, England.
July 24th, 2022.
Interesting. And if it was just a bunch of people having a laugh who wanted to just do something very particular,
It's beyond the laughing stage because it's selling like hotcakes.
okay, then then we get we judge from the results, and the results are good.
I've never had this kind of response, and I entered it into the Kovar Awards for jewelry. Kovar is
Interesting, Dave. Dave thinks that there is some kind of element here of a druidic nature.
It feels very druidic to me.
Okay.
That's Irish, right?
Yes.
Well, it's also English.
It's English too, yeah.
Okay. I mean, the druids every year in Stonehenge, even Churchill was a druid. So
It feels very mystical, so I'm on board edge. 50-50.
50-50 is good or is bad? Okay, let's open a little mini symposium. Is it good or is bad?
I'm neutral.
Is it good or is it bad?
I think it's good.
Is it good or is it bad?
It's very good.
Is it good or is it bad? The
symbol.
What do you think?
He's wearing it.
Honestly,
What do you get from it?
Neutral.
Good.
It's good.
Well, yeah.
good. She's not very convinced, but she's getting there. She's getting there. Anyway, thank you very much. To be continued. On this plane of existence, in other planes of existence, the sacred geometry jewelry, which is a very interesting project anyway.
From my website, sacredpendants.com.
Okay.
Functional healing jewelry.
Functional healing jewelry.
My wife energizes them when they're made in India. When we get them, she puts a golden pyramid over it and energy
Is
grid.
she Hindu?
No, American. She's right in there.
Okay.
She's a clairvoyant. She gives readings, free readings.
Spiritism.
Huh?
Spiritism. Allan Kardec kind of spiritualism, or how you define this clairvoyance?
She's a pure Christian mystic.
So Christian, define.
She was raised a Seventh-day Adventist.
Very interesting, though.
But then when she went to nursing school, she took comparative religion. and it opens her up to the universe.
But traditional Christians would say maybe she opened up to something a bit dark, sinister. How are you gonna debate that?
We met at a crystal healing workshop.
Okay.
35 years ago.
So, that's interesting. Well,
Yeah.
but I mean, you're still here, you're happy, you smile, you have a good life. So, if we have to judge by the results of this whole thing, it's good. Huh?
Yeah.
He has a good smile. He doesn't seem evil.
And the Lord said it's good.
He doesn't seem possessed by the devil. Look at him. How can he be possessed?
Last time I checked, no.
No. But he could be a host. Host of who? Shape-shifting, you know. No, poor guy. Shape-shifting. What do you mean shape-shifting?
Well, he's trying to look like the Pope or something. You don't know.
I'm trying to look like the Buddha.
He's trying to look like the Hawaiian Pope.
The Lion King.
No, it's good though. I mean, I sense that you have a positive energy, and so I will let our viewers judge. But remember, the viewers sometimes can be a little bit judgmental, especially the traditional Christians.
I'm also the goodwill ambassador for the Southern California conscious community.
Okay, keep that in mind.
And I have a website. I have an email list of 2,000 light workers, and I send out information to them on a regular basis about consciousness, health, teachers, seminars. Like we could advertise you if you wanted. And it's people stop me I'm in Los Angeles. They stop me all the time, thanking me for what I send out, because I'm the goodwill ambassador.
That's good. I'm in Palm Springs. So I'm in Southern California.
Yes.
I'm in your territory.
Yes.
That's good. Thank you so much for explaining all this. So, will you define yourself
By
as
the way,
a New Age?
One more thing.
As
It's
New Age.
sacredfriends.org for the Sacred Friends online community.
But some Christians would say you are a little bit New Age. You know that? I like
God
that
bless them.
God bless them. This guy you can't get. You can't get.
I started studying metaphysics in 1971.
Okay. That's a long time ago. I was born in 1970, so I know it's exactly 52 years.
At the UCLA Experimental College, they had classes in yoga, tai chi, meditation, hypnosis. Anybody could teach a class, anybody could take a class.
So you will agree that you can go on a positive direction, or you can take on a kind of left-hand path and go in a completely negative direction.
There's no point in being negative. Where does that get you?
There's no point. Thank you so much for this conversation. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Okay, now we are in the heart of the New Age community, basically. And it was an experience because, I was trying to get something out of him.
What did you want to say?
I don't know. When it comes to Arcturus, first of all, like I said earlier, with Edgar Cayce is a little bit of a bridge between Theosophy and the New Age. And he said basically that Arcturus was the Stargate, and a Stargate that brought these entities in and out of this galaxy, basically, because he talked a couple of times of aliens, Edgar Cayce. But there is actually the research conducted by a certain Daniel Speck, which talks about, which is very interesting, and it actually is based on Arcturus, in the sense that Arcturus is the star of the second coming. And he makes this point through a series of, it's much more consistent than Edgar Cayce. He actually makes his point through also some scientific observations and whatnot. So Arcturus seems to be something that is also present, though, in this kind of New Age, no? It's yeah.
I didn't hear about it when I was New Agent.
You were New Agent? A New Agent? A New Ager?
I said, no, not New Agent. New Agent.
But I think the New Agers are New Agents. Now, New Agers are really pick up also a bit of this millennialism, the way, they are like, they hope in a better, idyllic world that is manifesting through all of this supposed spirituality that they claim. Now, the New Agers have a very of course, open relation with sacred geometry, but today we want to expand on sacred geometry, and I wanted to really also discuss sacred geometry in a serious way. So let me, not that the New Ages are not serious, but they are lost in their own world at times. We can say, though, that some New Ages are also Freemasons, and some Freemasons are also New Agers. Now, Freemasonry did in 2018 here in California. You know, I collect all these Freemason magazine from the California Freemasons, and they made this particular number dedicated to sacred geometry. And so I'm gonna get you, Christy, to read also specific here. I want to show first of all this number of this publication here, because it's one of the very rare numbers of this publication, which is interesting. I collected, but not all of them are interesting. California, sacred geometry. Sacred geometry. Okay, so they are very much talking about sacred geometry. And here it says, Masonic sacred geometry, hidden mysteries in the ordinary world. In Masonic philosophy, sacred geometry reveals ephemeral spiritual realities and personal truths through tangible architectural forms. From its roots in classical philosophy to contemporary application, sacred geometry contemplation of times leads to revelation. Because let's remember that you can really use it as a meditative also, direct your thoughts in a certain ways, like with the mandas, but also with the labyrinths that you have in Shaft Cathedral, and soon we're going to talk also about that. Now, I wanted you, Christy, to read what the Deputy Grand Master back then, Stuart A. Wright, I don't know if he's still the Grand Master of the Knowledge of California, said about the importance of geometry in Freemasonry. And so especially this passage, I think, will be interesting to read. Please.
Still, the beauty of these structures cannot match the beauty that develops without, can you make it bigger?
Okay, that develops
within each of us as we embrace the metaphorical lessons of these simple tools in our day-to-day and interior lives. To quote our ritual, geometry is the first and noblest of sciences and the basis upon which the superstructure of Freemasonry is erected. With our brothers beside us, we do stand tall.
Okay, so the importance of geometry is also codified in many elements of Freemasonry, but the most obvious one is, of course, the letter G, because G, that you all see, it can be God, but it can also be geometry. Of course, it can also be Gnosticism, but that's maybe a more stretch kind of interpretation. The main interpretation is geometry, and in fact, in Freemasonry, in the emulation rite, which was concocted when the moderns and the ancients got together in 1816, they kind of pacified their position, and they came under the same banner of the United Knowledge of England. In this ritual that they approved, both of them, the emulation ritual, which I did, when I was installed as worshipful master, I was given the secret word, and that secret word was geometry.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I'm making a revelation here.
You said a secret?
Yes.
You said a secret word? What's going to happen now?
This is the, as you can see, the emulation ritual, which we have here. And in the emulation ritual, you have all the various degrees and stuff. And then you have, of course, also the installation ceremony, which is a particular ceremony in which the worshipful master is installed. And like I said, the geometry plays an important part. And it plays an important part also in the tracing boards, the ones that this... how can you describe them? The lodge, we call them, like, you put them on the ground and you have these images. Now, in the old times, there will be two different things. There will be the tracing board, and there will be then an image that will be kind of put in a...
Like projected? Or?
No, put in like in an image, in a frame, no? Nowadays, it's just put in a frame and you have the tracing board. Now, especially when it comes to the emulation ritual of Freemasonry, you have certain symbols that I can show here. Maybe our viewers, you just go on the tracing boards of Freemasonry, and you see how many symbols also connected to sacred geometry. But I think that the link to the most important link to geometry, of course, of Freemasonry is the theorem of Pythagoras, the 47 proposition of Euclid, which is really at the basis, and it's also present in the jewel of the past worship or master of each lodge, which I'm going to show you now. Now, this theorem of Pythagoras, I want to talk a little bit about it because it touched me very personally, in the sense that it was the only time that my mother and father basically, well, they whipped me. They truly whipped me because my father whipped me, basically. Actually, I couldn't understand the 47 proposition of Euclid, the theorem of Pythagoras.
How can you get whipped for that? That's child abuse.
I know, but in any case, this is the past. This is the jewel that you have when you are a past worshipper master. You know, when you pass your seat to another worshipper master, and then you become the past worshipper master. And this is actually the image of the proposition. Now, I want to explain a little bit about this because it's very important when you are at school to learn this.
Maybe Italian school, we didn't learn that.
It's at the basis of everything. If you
Are you talking about pi?
No. But I mean, it kind of actually fits into that also. The Pythagorean theorem is probably something that pre-existed Pythagoras himself, because there is actually past. It's from ancient times, but it's basically. Very important because it's like at the basis also of the whole Masonic speculative work. So I'm here in a little bit of difficulty because I never liked the Pythagoras theorem.
Okay?
No, I'm okay. But I must say, I must confess that I was great in philosophy, great in religion, but I was never that great, neither in geometry, neither in mathematics. And one is really one relates to the other. And when it comes to masonry, really an old term for masonry was actually geometry. Geometry and masonry are kind of synonyms in a way. So we have the study of sacred geometry. It's a means by which to view with reverence, the Masons say, and admiration, the glorious works of the creation, and they should be inspirational for each Mason, which basically brings them to the perfections of this divine creator, although an understanding of sacred geometry, and that it's really important also to understand the divine manifestations in the natural world. Like I said at the beginning, it's not only in the temples, but it's manifested all around us. So geometry, it's very important. Sacred geometry, it's at the basis also of vehiculating certain energy, no? Certain energy. You build, like, for example, you build the churches always in the East. You are basically the earth is filled with various magnetic fields, ley lines, and whatnot, and sacred spots are built in particular locations. So when you want to vehicle that energy in a specific way, that's when you really want to build something special. And we had many many experiences with the places that are incredible. One that I would like to talk about is, of course, Chartres Cathedral, an amazing place. I found this incredible site which had also this little, and I would like to play for all of you in a moment also all the documentary on Chartres, which is also very interesting. This cathedral is important because it brought the collaboration for the first time of Germans, French, English people all together in medieval times in a situation which was definitely not of unity. And as you can see from this image, is built following what we know now as the golden ratio. The golden ratio is very important because it's by the golden ratio that we really build beauty around us. And so the cathedral in particular of Chartres has not only that, but has also these labyrinths. Now, you might not be able to go to France, but you are able maybe to go to another place which is much closer, in which they have copied the labyrinth in another church, much closer to us, very close to us here in California. And so I wanted to show you that the labyrinths of Chartres are basically present in a place which is the Grace Cathedral, which is home to 2 Chartres-style labyrinths. And it's something that, of course, a lot of people will find interesting, because what is a labyrinth? Why is it so important, a labyrinth? I'm going to show you just a second. A labyrinth is basically a way for our minds to focus on something and to then actually spiritually vehicle our thoughts through this labyrinth, which is in a church. So now there is actually a modern labyrinth movement. Let me show here how it is. The labyrinth, you see, you go in this labyrinth. People go into the labyrinth. See?
It looks like the maze from The Shining.
No, but it's actually a way in a church.
Oh, it's in a church.
This is in a Catholic church, of course, and it's a way, see, for receiving some form of illumination, because the geometry can help filter our energy, our ideas, vehicle. That's also, when stuff, the mandalas are that kind of thing. I know that you are quite acquainted with that, Christine?
Yeah.
So it's about being able to concentrate. Sacred geometry is basically the study of the spiritual in various shapes, but it's also the way that we are captivating what is emanating from this universe, which is, of course, constantly expanding in a way through an equation that is perfect by God's creation, which is mathematically perfect. God is not chaos, is of course everything, but in this case is creation, and creation is something that has to be done, of course, with the help of perfection, and perfection can't be chaotic. It has to be harmonious. It has to be. So I think that it's rather important, all this. Of course, there is some extremism. We have just seen, what it means maybe for a new ager to go into sacred geometry and kind of maybe bring it one step too further. Then there is the mandalas, though, that just like this labyrinth, like the labyrinth also of Chartres Cathedral in France, bring the person who is in this situation of spiritual, awakening, because he's in a church surrounded by certain. Yes.
I used to make mandalas,
yes,
like a lot, especially on Friday. And I used to make them with flowers and crystals. And I used to just say something nice and make them. So aren't there people like me that just kind of did these things? And I mean, I wasn't doing anything I thought was wrong.
No, but I mean, in Christianity, the construction of medieval European cathedrals was often based on this kind of sacred geometries, and then some say also there were some ley lines that all these sacred places in various parts of Europe were connected with, some of them positive, some of them negative. When it comes to, for example, the pentagram in itself, it reverses evil, but in a straight way, kind of like shows the 5 elements, which is basically the 4 elements plus the ethereal element. So, and it's it's not evil per se, but then if of course you reverse it, you put it's like reversing a prayer, of course, making it unnatural. Everything can be made unnatural. So I think that the sacred geometry, it's very important for everything, and it needs to be understood in a way. You don't have to agree with it. You are living in it, so you just have to eventually learn to perceive it, learn to understand it, learn to understand also when this geometry maybe is put in a way that is conflictual with them. I mean, there is some buildings that are negative. There is some temples that are satanic, that are evil in nature because they are built in a certain way. I mean, people don't know, but I describe this in volume 8 of my Confessions when I talk about Michael Aquino and Anton LaVey, and when they tried to evoke the spirit of Marilyn Monroe, and they were also involved with specific geometrical patterns within their temple. I don't know if you remember reading that. So read it. But that's how it is, because I mean, the pentagram is an example, but the Pentagon is also an example. I mean, these are structures that are built in the sacred, even the Pentagon itself, the Pentagon, which is the military industrial complex headquarters of America, it's built on a sacred geometrical concept, like the rest of Washington, by the way, because then you have, Washington, D.C., which is completely built in a sacred geometry situation, because the founders were all Freemasons. They were all rather fixated with these things. So they wanted to, you see, we go back to when we started this whole series, which it was the as above, so below.
Yeah.
The tablets of Hermetes Trismegistus, what is below, it's reflected, what is above is reflected below, and so that is the sacred geometry.
Yeah.
So
very important.
And of course, like somebody is also suggesting, the Tree of Life and Flower of Life patterns is a natural fractal pattern found in nature. In the golden ratio is absolutely found in nature.
There's even one in beauty too, like your own personal beauty. They say that the most beautiful people are, they have this symmetrically, which is it's impossible, but 2 sides the same, of their face, and that makes them, perfectly beautiful,
I think that one thing is very important here. Now, in this age of new agers that are buying and selling everything, their way to enlightenment is surrounded by, I don't know, chant this mantra, hold this crystal, buy some incense. I think that the spiritual longing is there, but you have to understand that there is certain places where this spiritual energy is really vacant, and the Shard Cathedral is one of them. That's why let's view this brief extract from this documentary on the Shard Cathedral. And welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Leo and Christy Zagami. We love to have you all here. And of course, put like.
Yeah.
Yes, why not?
Virtually all cultures and religions believe in the idea of recurrent cycles of time. The Western calendar itself is centered around one of these times of renewal, the birth of Christ. Were the prayers of the people 1,000 years ago answered in the form of magnificent cathedrals dedicated to the Virgin, the more approachable, feminine aspect of God? And can we accept the idea that the divine manifests itself not just in flesh and blood, but also in stone? The cathedral at Chartres was built in honor of the Virgin Mary as her throne upon earth, an earthly palace for the Queen of Heaven.
Are we given buildings like Chartres Cathedral to experience heaven on earth?
I love that question because it has behind it so many lovely assumptions, and that is that we are being given. I would say yes, but then one would have to be very careful what one meant by saying yes to the question, because looking at the question, who is giving the giving? And of course, for those of us who are believers, it's very simple. All things are given by God, all things are taken back into God. But taking the idea that one is given it in the form of revelation, in the form of inspiration, in the form of knowledge and learning, which puts a building like this together, yes, it is given, and yes, it is for our upliftment, our self-discovery, our experience of unity, anything which brings us closer to our completeness and our rediscovery of our own relationship to God.
The town of Chartres is built on a powerful sacred spot, a natural peak in the Earth's energy field, which, even in pre-Christian times as the Gallo-Roman town Autricum, was already drawing people like a magnet. After Christianization in the early 4th century, a series of churches occupied the site of the present cathedral. But it was not just pilgrims on a spiritual quest who came here. Chartres also attracted those on a quest for philosophical knowledge, including many Jewish philosophers who contributed to a more universal outlook. The intellectual visionaries who were drawn here in the 11th century established a school which prompted a new flowering of classical knowledge based on the teachings of Plato. Over the course of the next 200 years, the school remained one of the most important scholastic institutions of medieval Europe. We can still recapture the feeling of the pilgrims as they caught a first glimpse across the cornfields of the Beauce countryside. For the modern pilgrim, too, Chartres can have a profound and lasting effect. Today, people from all over the world, people of all faiths and religions, visit the cathedral for a multitude of reasons. Its mysteries have always attracted both spiritual seekers and scholars alike. Professor Keith Critchlow of the Prince of Wales's Institute of Architecture in London is one of these pilgrims. He has described his relationship with Chartres as a marriage, and indeed it is a strong passion that has prompted him to study the secrets of the cathedral for over 30 years.
The clergy and royalties in Europe felt very strongly about building Chartres at the time. It seems that they were unified for the first and maybe only time to build Chartres.
Well, it was an exceptionally interesting time, and as you say, there was cooperation right through Europe, from England to Germany. There was Elizabeth of Schonau being consulted, and the results of her consultation meant a change in all the iconography. John of Salisbury, our own English town, he was a very distinguished bishop of Chartres. The money to build Chartres came from far and wide, and therefore it transcended, as you say, it transcended the politics of the day. And that is something which is always a beautiful point in history when spiritual principles rise way above political and petty quarrels.
What do you think, Christy? The
Nice,
Cathedral
really.
Shard.
Yeah.
And for those who want to still experience the labyrinths, I showed earlier the labyrinth in the Grace Cathedral, which is in San Francisco, which is closer, like I said. But of course, Shard is Shard, and it's definitely an incredible place. Vehicle, how you say?
Vehicle. Italians don't say the H.
Yes,
so
it's a bit different. Yes. Okay, so sacred geometry, of course, can be found in many different traditions. The Hagia Sophia, that used to be first a church, then a mosque, then now I think it's a museum. Then we have the Taj Mahal, beautiful Taj Mahal, incredible Taj Mahal, which also it's described very well in its symmetry and its perfection by this young lady. Mathematical review of the Taj Mahal, because Taj Mahal really, when it comes down to sacred geometry, is second to none.
Hello everyone, I'm Hardika Jain. Today I have come up with a video which will take you to the magical world of maths. This video will surely change the aspects of the ones who think that maths is boring. I hope you enjoy it. We all know about Taj Mahal. Many of us have visited it also. But do you know about the mathematics used in building this monument? If no, so this is what you want. Taj Mahal is the best known example of symmetry in architecture. In both its exterior and interior, symmetry is everywhere to be seen. In its exterior, you will find symmetry in all the four sides of the monument. The top view shows you the magic of four lines of symmetry. The chhatris present at the top of the four minarets are identical and a great example of symmetrical architecture. The minarets, which stand high, were designed intelligently with a slant outwards that prevents damage to the building in case of an earthquake. The interior of the building leads to different symmetrical rooms. The stones arranged in the pathways have a geometrical pattern of four-sided stars and diamonds, elongated hexagons and four-pointed stars, and mostly with the tiling pattern of six-sided stars and regular hexagon. Even the drainage holes in some places have a striking hexagonal pattern. Taj Mahal also displays golden proportion in the width of its central arc to its length, and even in the windows in the arc to the height of the section below the dome. In all, we can say that Taj Mahal is the best example of mathematical architecture with symmetry and geometry.
Unfortunately, the volume was not too high, but what can we do? That's what we had. The Taj Mahal is, of course, one of the world's new seven wonders, and it's something that was built in the 17th century by this emperor Shah Jahan for his favorite wife. The design, of course, is a blend of different Persian, Islamic, Indian styles, but of course the proportions, the geometry is it's reflecting all the classical canons of the sacred geometry that we also find in other important places that, of course, of various traditions. I mean, we have the Borobudur temple in Indonesia also, which is very interesting. We have many different places that, of course, too many to show to you today, but we can say that they all reflect this sacred energy which is pervading and emanating from these structures, no? And then we have Pythagoras said something really important regarding geometry. He was very, how can we say, he was very direct about the fact that if you didn't knew about geometry, you didn't know about anything, and geometry was like a prerequisite for those who wanted to really become Pythagoreans, no? And according to Herodotus, geometry was established by the ancient Egyptians. So here we go back to Alexandria of Egypt, which was the school of ancient times, which transmitted alchemy, which transmitted some of Christianity, some Gnosticism. This is supported by written evidence from Egypt itself, so it's not... then we have, of course, in ancient Mesopotamia, also the practice of geometry in ancient China, and, of course, in India. Now, the study of sacred geometry is a means by which to view with reverence and admiration the work of God. Like I said earlier, it's important that we always remember that. And there is also the idea that all these structures are somehow connected by ley lines, which are the straight alignments drawn between various historical structures and prominent landmarks that at times also form some kind of geometric also themselves. You know, if you connect this with this, and then maybe you get a specific geometrical pattern. So sacred places are important. Sacred places are important because they capture the energy and the divine mystery that of course is it's to be perceived by us, by these symbols that we have to interpret. Like at times they tell us what is the secrets, or what is the main secret of Freemasonry. What is the secret? There is really no secret, because you can go around and find all the secrets of Freemasonry probably on the internet, but the main secret is your own interpretation of the allegories, the symbols, everything that is taught to you, no? So it helps, in some way it should help you growing. And there is an incredible explanation regarding sacred geometry also by Mark Stavish. Mark Stavish is a guy who I have interviewed in volume 5 of my Confessions.
I remember.
Yes, yeah, of course you edited it, so you know. And Mark Stavish has made a rather beautiful explanation, which I would like Christy to read, about what sacred geometry really is. He's a very famous Masonic scholar.
I'll try. Sacred geometry gives order and meaning to the cosmos, and it offers perspective, allowing us to discern relationships between the physical and spiritual dimensions, and provisions. It provides a mechanism of
near universal proportions for understanding complex philosophical concepts and metaphysical ideas. Freemasonry is often referred to as peculiar system of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols, whose purpose is to lead each Mason to discover for himself the hidden mystery of nature and science. Now, it's important, you have to understand that we are here talking about analogy, because this is not about logic, this is about analogic. It's about giving to each idea a peculiar symbol, or referring to this symbol and seeing in it a particular energy from nature, a particular interpretation that you can maybe have if you are developed enough. By watching maybe a symbol, an ordinary guy will see nothing, the initiated will see something. This is important. That's why the initiated is given usually in all the various mystery schools of antiquity, but even in the most primitive animist schools, some symbols, some things during the initiation that he learns to interpret. He understands, and he finally develops a different understanding also of the world around him. because when you're given those specific directions, then you can interpret it differently. You enter a church, you see the church in a different way. You enter a building, any kind of building, and you interpret, and you see, the White House, the Capitol Hill. These are buildings with very specific geometrical patterns, and so I think that it's very important to understand this. Of course, a Mason has his own way of learning about sacred geometry, but it's not the only way. The Masons, like I said, give a lot of importance to the 47 problem of Euclid that can be understood as one of the most important secrets of Freemasonry. That's probably why my father gave me a hard time with that. It was really most. I still remember because he took, I think, his own his belt, and.
Well, that's not fair.
I know, but then I learned it. I know it's
I'm sorry, I'm right.
I know, but what can you do? But that's how it is. I mean, in ancient,
makes my heart hurt.
Yeah. Okay, well, don't worry about it. In any case, I wasn't meant to become an engineer or somebody who particularly, liked geometry in any way. Years later, I understood, though, the importance of understanding geometry, but of course my father had a completely different understanding from me because he was really an expert in geometry, mathematics. He was very mathematical as a person, very geometry. He even studied the details, the systems. You remember also to play in a casino, he would study a system and devise it, so he would calculate everything.
My dad was really good at math too. I'm not very good in math. Two of us not good in math.
Yes,
it's really
at
least one person can be good in math.
Not very
Either
good.
one of us.
No,
I'm good at other things.
Yeah, let's say that. But Pythagoras was very much the guy who, of course, started a whole study and a whole school also, because the Pythagoreans really to some extent also became later on the Freemasons. But there was something described at the entrance of Plato's academy, and it was, "Let none enter here who are ignorant of geometry." So he also, of course, reiterates this concept that nobody who really is ignorant of geometry can enter into this. In ancient Egypt, this knowledge was considered so sacred that the transmission of it, if you were not initiated, was punishable with death.
Really?
So only the initiated could then construct those immense and incredible buildings that we have in Egypt.
When I was in my 20s, I read these books, and one of them was Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth. I don't know if anybody else has read it, but it's a fiction book. But it was one of my favorite books, and it's actually the only book my sister ever read. Or she started she's read the Bible, but she actually started reading books. She had never read a book. And I was like, you have to read this book. It's so good. And I can't now remember why I thought it was maybe the writing, but there was a lot of that kind of, it was about the churches and how they were built in the medieval times. And they talked about the cross in the center of the church when they built the church around the cross. And so, there was all these Masonic terms in this book. So I didn't have any connection to it then, but I do now because I was a Freemason.
Yeah.
But, it does.
You have to learn certain things about the 7 arts and sciences, no? And geometry, which stands out as the foundation upon which mathematics is practically applied in daily life, it's very important. But what is geometry and what is sacred geometry? We have seen today in this show how geometry is something that can be found within and also during a conscious realization of yourself, as well as something that, of course, is used in a very practical way for the structures that are built around us that help us in our daily life. So there is really a union of heaven and earth in creating the perfect building, like, for example, the Cathedral of Chartres. And there is this incredible phrase that Arthur Young said: mind and matter are not opposites, they are orthogonal. The right angle is the basis for a geometry of meaning. Now, the duality of geometry, I'm sure that
those right angles.
Pythagoras described geometry as visual music. So, I mean, very important also to understand that geometry is also connected to the music of the spheres, to everything. Music is created by applying laws of frequency and sound in certain ways, but let's also not forget the music instruments are themselves built in a certain way, and they have certain geometrical patterns within them.
Like a spiral and a horn.
Yeah, all of them, you know. So they are like, you know, by creating that harmonic resonance, you are producing the frequencies that combined in different ways are kind of showing they are projecting the laws of nature. And Masons, of course, are maybe familiar with the Pythagorean theorem, which, of course, but then you have to understand that in all this, you have also the golden ratio, which is reflected in Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. The Vitruvian Man of Leonardo da Vinci, of course, it's worth showing. It's very important because also it projects us into the world of sacred geometry. So sacred geometry is really all around us. And today here with this show, we are, of course, scratching the surface. And I, of course, also, I immediately apologize at the beginning, but I want to do it again. I'm not a great mathematician. I have never had good votes in geometry. So if I butchered anything, please forgive me. But the fact that I wanted to discuss this subject is because for the Illuminati, the whole concept of sacred geometry is fundamental to their temples, to what they construct, to Freemasonry, of course, Masonry. The numbers that constitute mainly the whole sacred structure are 3, 5, and 7, and of course 3 is a triangle, is a perfect triangle. Now the concept of the triangle, the Platonic solid tetrahedron, and then we have, of course, also the number, and this is the 3, but then you have the number 5, which is not only the pentagram, but it's also the pentagon, like we said earlier, and the solid dodecahedron, and of course the 5 elements with also the element, the ethereal elements, so air, fire, earth, water, and ether. And then we have the 7, which is a number of great importance, the 7 planets, the 7 nodes, the 7 chakras, the 7 liberal arts, the
7 days of the week,
and the 7 notes in a music major scale. And I talked about the origins of the music notes in this book, Purchase Volume 8.
You talked a lot about what we talked about today.
Yes, absolutely. So this book,
it's a good one to study from.
It's definitely a good, and of course we cited earlier also the Fibonacci sequence. So geometry is an exact science. Yeah, you know, it's nothing is left to chance, and of course for the Illuminati, for the Freemasons, for all the various mystery schools. Sacred geometry meant also manifesting their power in ancient, medieval, and Renaissance times. You know, these geometrical forms that they were shown to the common man, the common folk that didn't study, didn't have any culture. It would have resulted in a shock and in a sacred experience. Now, we still have, of course, that change of consciousness when we go inside these places, because they're built on holy ground and the way, like we exposed today. But there is a problem. The problem is that then with modern times, people have maybe lost this spirituality, and at the same time they have become very much of knowledge with all of it that has been normalized through TV, the media, the internet. We have projected all over, geometry is all over us, but we don't understand it anymore as sacred. And instead, when you enter, of course, the world of Freemasonry or any other secret society that is initiating you and partaking of an experience in which these symbols help you build your own comprehension, your own awareness. I wanted to show this Pythagoras, a reason for the music of the spheres, which I found rather interesting. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show with Leo and Christy Zagami. Christy! Hey! Who are the sponsors of today?
Philippe Belair. Okay, I want to say Belair because it's Philippe, but it's Philippe Belair. And if I say it wrong, I'm sorry. Bruce Kodish, Mikkel Krog, and Pina. So that's our sponsors. And then everybody that bought the book. And
if you want to sponsor a GoFundMe, Fundly, Cash App, thank you very much for.
We would be really, really rich if it was just from your love that this show ran. We would be really rich, but unfortunately it's not. So
what do you mean?
So we have to pay the bills. So
okay.
I don't know.
I sometimes feel that when we translated the work of Pythagoras, we expected something more primitive than the knowledge of our present day, and this affected how his ideas are explained and understood. It seems strange that whenever there is a step forward in our understanding and knowledge is increased, it never totally disagrees with his ideas. Take his idea of the music of the spheres. It can seem very primitive idea, but today we have spherical harmonics at the heart of quantum mechanics, and also at the largest scale of the universe we have spherical harmonics being linked to the cosmic microwave background radiation. Today we can see Pythagoras wasn't totally wrong with the music of the spheres. This theory wants to go further than Pythagoras went and explain the universe as a universal process of spherical symmetry, forming and breaking, that forms the potential for music. This process is formed by the spontaneous absorption and emission of light relative to the atoms of the periodic table. Within such a process, the wave-particle duality of light and matter in the form of electrons is forming a blank canvas that we can interact with. We have an emergent future unfolding photon by photon relative to the energy and momentum of our actions. This gives us the potential to form the possible into the actual, and this can be in the form of music and art. This process is represented in physics by Schrodinger's quantum wave particle function or probability function. This wave equation is three-dimensional, expanding out as an inverse sphere of spherical harmonics. In mathematics, spherical harmonics are special functions defined by the surface of a sphere. This process of photon energy exchange is forming the movement of positive and negative charge and continuous flow of electromagnetic fields in three-dimensional space. In this theory, the two-dimensional surface of the sphere forms a dynamic boundary condition, with the concaved inner surface forming negative charge and the convexed outer surface forming positive charge. Such a theory will only need the three dimensions that are formed within the interior of a sphere. In this theory, the extra dimensions of string theory are just future possibilities.
Oh, let me go really too far.
My brain
How
is
high? How high when you get? You're gonna get even higher. Let's go to Chichen Itza. Now that's another
Tunisia?
No, Chichen Itza del Castillo.
Chichen Itza.
It's known as Chichen Itza.
Okay.
And basically, it's a place which also has a lot of sacred geometry, let me tell you. And a lot of sacred geometry, of course, connected to the South American, Mesoamerican cultures and the Mayan culture. And it's an experience to see how all these ancient cultures in some way or another were connected and knew about this sacred geometry. Now, it's a pre-Columbian Mayan civilization that built Chichen Itza, but then, of course, we have also the idiots that do things that they shouldn't do. There was a lady not so long ago, 6 months ago, that went walking along the temple of Kukulkan, which, of course, you are forbidden to do something like that, but that's how it is.
A tourist sparked fury by climbing.
In the day of the tourists who want to do a lot of views on the internet, here we are.
Climbing the steps of the ancient temple of Kukulkan and goading a crowd of angry locals in Mexico. The woman could be seen near the top of Pyramid of Kukulkan dancing while an enraged group of people shouted abuse at her from down below. Ascending the 82-feet pyramid at the Chichen Itza archaeological site, formerly one of the most important centers of the Mayan civilization, has been prohibited since 2008. Once the woman descended the 91 steps, she was met with an angry crowd with some chanting "jail" and "lock her up." She was pelted with water bottles as she made her way through the mob. The National Institute of Anthropology and History, INAH, issued a statement a few hours after the video was released on social media, noting that the monument had not been damaged. Fines for climbing the temple can range from $2,569 to $5,138,
So it costs a little bit of money,
depending on the damage caused to the structure.
Well, that's what happens, of course, in this day and age of constant idiocy on various levels. But like I said, it's rather interesting that you have all these, these sacred geometry buildings in various parts of the world, so that at time reflect the same golden ratio, reflect the same geometrical patterns. And show that this is a very, very old. Sacred geometry is as old as mankind. And then, of course, the beauty of the Temple of Solomon, the now lost Temple of Solomon. It was, as you know, rebuilt 2 times, but here we are. This is how it was back in the days with the 10 menorahs here, the 2 angels that look very. It all looks very Egyptian. But of course, some say, of course, like Gerard Massey, that the Jewish were actually an Egyptian tribe. But this is the holy place, is the interior of the temple. It's a 20 cubits height and wide by 40 cubits long, equivalent of 2 cubes side by side. Priests were only entering this room if properly purified, within an altar of incense, a table of sacrificial shewbreads, and 10 7-armed menorahs. This is how it was inside. We always hear about the Temple of Solomon, but this is basically the original Joachim and Boaz, and very interesting to see how they reconstructed this structure virtually. And of course, like we said earlier, we go from Solomon's temple, sacred structure, to the temples of all over the world. I mean, when the Hagia Sophia was built in Istanbul, the story goes that Emperor Justinian said, "Oh, Solomon, I have outdone this." So basically, he did better than Solomon. And the Hagia Sophia is, to this day, one of the beauties of this world, a beautiful structure. There is also a transmission of beauty along with this energy. And what did you perceive out of the episode of today, the sacred geometry? What do you perceive? Have you noticed that, like, for example, when people live surrounded by beautiful structures, they actually act in a different way when they live in the ghettos, in some horrible structures, then they live, because these structures are also opening portals, energies, channeling energies.
Well, the best sacred geometry is nature. That's what I think. Nature, God's nature.
But of course, God's nature then can offer to mankind some places where you worship God, and so the portals that we discussed, the energy portals that we wanted to also discuss today, are simply a way at times for inviting into this realm some not so good entities, but also there is those portals with the divine, which are miraculous and help people in their healing processes. Like, for example, the Holy in Lourdes, they say there is that kind of thing. Do
you remember the ley line in Roviano?
Then there is the ley line of particular places, like we were living in a particular ley line, Roviano, which is connected to various places in that area, that is said to be actually the place where the original Faust used to hang out, and it's a kind of a diabolic energy. And some people will not visit me because of this energy. I mean, I had a friend, an Italian friend, Giorgio Vitali.
I lived in that village on top of that energy.
And yes, so the energy. Now we can create portals, and that's dangerous. We can find portals. That's a different thing. If the portal is naturally there, it's naturally open, and the process is actually drawn by nature. So, also because some of these portals are in places where the actual earth, and under the earth certain minerals that also certain energies, crystals emanate certain energies that of course are inside the earth.
Like, what places on earth are like that?
For example, Subiaco, we had the monasteries. They were built and all that kind of very strong energy places. Monasteries are usually built in very strong energy places because the Catholic tradition picked up immediately from what was previously maybe of some pagan cults, and they immediately went there and said, okay, we take over the place and we build up our own thing here. It seems to me that
What about a bad energy portal, like what Aleister Crowley did in the
Now,
desert?
Aleister Crowley, for example, in the desert, that is something that is at the center of Confessions of Illuminati Volume 8. I open up the book talking about it, and it's the most important thing, that because there is a synchronicity that is totally diabolic, that from his opening of literally the gates of hell in North Africa, with this ritual for Coronzon, then in Caxton Hall in London, and then of course at the same time you have the launch of Hollywood. So that is definitely, I mean, and it is sacred geometry always, because if you think about it, Crowley was supposed to say in the circle during this evocation, and he went out of the circle. Okay, so the circle, the triangles in which you evoke other angels or demons, also the occultist is always in some way dealing with sacred geometry for protection. The amulets are made in a certain way at times, you know, like in a triangle at times, or in other particular amulets have octagonal, seven. I mean,
You see a lot of, well, they're pentagrams.
Different ones. The pentagram is a different thing, but like I said, so you have, for example, somebody citing Mount Graham, which of course was Indian holy ground, and then the Jesuits took it over and built an observatory. You understand, there is also that going on. We are in an age of alleged UFO disclosure, all this retro engineering, reverse engineering, which is confirming what I wrote in Volume 7. Guys, those who have read Volume 7 know that I ascribed the origins of Cyber Satan to reverse engineering in the 50s. Just after Roswell, but people don't seem to make 1 + 1 = 2, no? I mean, I really wrote it there very clear in plain sight, and people maybe didn't really believe the reverse engineering part too much. Maybe they didn't take it too seriously. So nowadays, there's a lot of skepticism, of course, around what this guy in particular, Grush, is saying, and it's coming out with all these revelations, and people,
the
whistleblower and all that. But reverse engineering is a reality, and if we are about to be conquered by Cyber Satan in the next 7 years, well, he planted these seeds with an operation which we could call Operation Trojan Horse, because every human fall for it. If there is really all these these spaceships in the hands of humans, well, they have been used as a Trojan horse. So it's a psyop, but it's also a reality which in any case is it's going to dominate our life, because that's what's happening with the Cyber Satan in a way or in another. But sacred geometry is, of course, also the understanding that with certain symbols you can have a lot of power. The power of the cross. A cross is the most sacred of symbols. The power of the cross, the power of other important symbols, the Jewish menorah, and other symbols that of course can bring us in some way in contact with God. And so I want to really thank today my wife and also all our audience for trying in some way to unlock the mystery of sacred geometry, which are very complex, but at the same time very simple, because they are simply a reflection of God's perfection. And, you know, when we are building God's perfection on earth, we have to build something geometrically perfect and beautiful. Now, that is, I was saying this a moment ago, but this is worth reiterating. when you are living in a society like today that doesn't give at times importance to these energies and this, and then you are building houses which are just, geometrically. The sacred geometry is not the problem here. Is that they are really built in a clashing way. All you build a set of houses with a certain kind of geometry. Then the next set of houses with a different kind of geometry, and the next set of houses, and they're all vehicling different energies. And that's when you have, which side of the city you live? North or south? No, because the north is more pleasant and the south is not. Well, when you go and actually look at the way the south maybe is built or the north is built and is different, and then you understand,
really?
Well, just go in Compton. Those people kill each other every day, and they kill each other every day in other cities which have very particular kind of geometric. It's not about sacred geometry here. It's also about vehicle. It's of course about sacred geometry, but it's because it's sacred. What makes geometry sacred? That's the thing. What makes the geometry sacred? And if we don't reflect that energy, the Chinese call it the Qi energy. No, they build all their structures in a certain way to reflect this energy. The Chinese are very conscious about the energies that are filtering through the earth, and the way you sleep to the north rather than the south, and this and that. It's all about the energy flow that we have on the planet, and the way we can live in equilibrium with it.
That's good.
No? Understand? So
balance.
Yes.
Right?
So I will also suggest that, for example, for the people who live in those terrible ghettos where they kill each other, Chicago, Compton, I said, but any kind of terrible place. Well, in Italy, when we have this kind of ghettos, we always have these buildings that are really rather ugly.
Yeah.
And
I thought it's because, I mean, what you're saying is when I think about like the ghettos in New York and stuff, I think about we have rich people and poor people, but then you're talking about the building structures and where they are actually. Yeah. So, I mean, that's very interesting.
Very structures where they are and how they are. I mean, if you live in ugly, surrounded by, I mean, you can have a great place inside, your own home is great indoors. Yeah. But if the outside also is built in the wrong way.
What if you're surrounded by ugly people?
I'm not talking.
Not ugly, like ugly.
What makes them ugly? But what makes them mean? The energy, the way it's filtered in this. I mean, I remember London. There is some council estates in London in which you don't even want to go close. They show them sometimes in the movies, and they are, you see them. And I remember one in particular close to Portobello, not too far from Portobello Road. Portobello Road is a fantastic road in London, very famous, very renewed. But then you go just half a kilometer down the road, and you have one of the most ugly buildings in London. And you find yourself in a situation of danger, because those are the ghettos where the drugs are sold, where the weapons are circulating. And then the same can be said in a city like Rome, Milan, Paris, and any other city here in America. That's why it's at the moment particularly sad to see how cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco are deteriorating, and many others are deteriorating. But where are they deteriorating? In certain areas in which the geometry probably, and the way they structure the architecture, that's to be more precise, because sorry for my English, but the architecture is not filtering the right energy.
Okay.
I think that, for example, like when we arrived in Hollywood and we went in front there at the Kodak Theater, Dolby Theater, I talk all about it here. And in the year 2001, they inaugurated in November 2001 this center, which is like built based on the film of D.W. Griffin and all the Babylonian reconstruction. Now, all that energies that come from imagine the energy projected by the elephants of Ishtar and all this stuff. Ooh.
I remember. Yeah, they're like just right there looking down on you, like big galactic. And while you're shopping at Sephora.
and another thing Bruce is saying here, very interesting. The CIA sponsored ugly architecture starting at least from the 1960s. Absolutely. And like I say in this book with Andy Warhol, it sponsored not only ugly architecture, but also ugly art. So it goes hand in hand. Ugly art. Now, the art of the past was made by artists who were trying to find themselves reflecting God, or even the golden ratio, like Salvatore Dali. So you see perfection there. You see in the representation of Christ of Salvatore Dali, you see perfection.
And so
and the cross, you know, I mean, when I went and I saw it with my own eyes in an exhibition in London, I was like, wow. And ugly music, because music, like we said, it's also geometry. So
that really changed my life, because I had a hard time listening to even 80s music before. I mean, I was okay, like I could listen to a record, but like just anything, especially nowadays, I don't listen to anything because it's just, it makes me feel terrible when I hear it. So I like, if I hear, everything has like bad music to it, and so even like all the commercials, I mean, it's just terrible. But when I listen to 432 hertz, I feel good. And so I've been able to rediscover all my 80s music. And it really, for me personally, it affects some people. Maybe it doesn't affect them, but for me, it affected me really strongly. And so I just want to tell you, I enjoy music more. And I listen to 432.
Okay, because
I followed that from your book. I didn't know that before.
And there is a lot of useful.
And I'm your wife.
There's a lot of useful hints and suggestions that you can find in volume 8 of my confessions. But I think that today we really summarized how man could really live in an idealistic world, in an idealistic state, if they only kind of just did that. It's like, okay, this whole war that the left is moving, talking about race, always all this woke thing, and then this is this is all these problems, and are you transgender, how gender you are, is it fluid, not fluid, all the guys, this is not really the problem, because we can all be tolerant and live in a much more peaceful world and in a much better world if the symbols and the geometry projected on us by those who constructed these cities had better intentions. Now, the Freemasons might have had that intention initially, but then they didn't really develop it further, and so then they let go, and the cities have not been developed following, a studied, very well studied, studying the energies, flowing those energies. That is not only constructing a city for the ancients, was not only constructing homes. It was making something different. It was constructing a structure that Rome is. You go there and you feel something. You might not like it, but it's there. And it's strong, and it's majestic, and it's you the same when you go in other cities that
Japanese temples,
or in Japanese temple in other cities. You never find though the same feeling if you go in the suburb of Rome, or if you go in the suburb of London, or if you go in the suburb of New York, or any suburb, because they are very far from those areas which were originally constructed following a sacred geometry pattern. No? So it's like, let's do this. They constructed a nice idealistic city. Great. But then the problem is that the city started to grow and they didn't really follow the energy patterns that they were originally unveiled and nurtured and taken care in the center structure. That's the problem also with big cities that have gone way out of control, I think, and their energy is spread in the wrong way, and that's why you get cities becoming more and more violent, more and more tormented. No? Now, Chicago always reminds me of Metropolis. Chicago is that is Chicago, but then Chicago becomes big. Chicago becomes big, and Chicago becomes a place where nowadays, basically, it's a war zone, guys. It's like going in Ukraine. If you tell me, where do you want to go tomorrow morning? To Kiev or you want to go to Chicago? I tell you, I prefer going to Kiev. Because you can die in Chicago in a second. And the energy of that city...
I've never been, so I don't know.
It's heavy, man. It's heavy. It's heavy. It's a very
I suppose
heavy.
it's like that for New York now. Is it? I hope not.
Hope not.
I want to go back so bad because he's never had New York pizza. And
Well, I've been to New York, but I never had maybe...
I mean, no, you never had New York pizza.
Okay.
And so, I want him to
Not
try
that I
it because I'm
remember.
always trying to emulate this New York pizza. He's never even had it. So I always have to just do Rome.
Okay.
So Roman pizza.
Okay.
Anyway.
But I think that in the future, if in the future we need to construct a new civilization, we need to break from this current civilization, because this civilization, as we see it, this civilization is crumbling down and inevitably is going to be controlled by Cyber Satan within the next 10 years. The cities are going to be controlled by Cyber Satan. And Cyber Satan is going to enslave humans because that's what they want to do. They don't need to come with big spaceships and arrive like War of the Worlds. No, it's click a button and they control all the artificial intelligence in the world. And in 10 years from now, basically they control the planet. But the problem is for us who want to live in a different way, well, then I would suggest that when we start reconstructing the next city where we're going to depart from this current civilization to construct our own, we will follow
God's kingdom on earth.
God's kingdom on earth. We will follow the golden ratio. We will follow basically a geometry, that sacred geometry that brings us in contact with God and brings only beauty and beautiful energies towards us.
That's nice. I like that. We all need hope. So
we all
thank
need.
You. We're gonna build a new society, guys, because this one's falling apart.
Ukraine, then probably if they reconstruct it, they're gonna reconstruct it all smart city, because the smart concept goes hand in hand with the war. No, the whole war effort down in Ukraine. If you go and study what they are doing, they're laying the foundations also to a society where everything is digitalized, everything is controlled. Probably everybody will be microchipped. That is basically what Zelensky wants. I mean, it's just insane, but that's how it is. And that is what the West is pushing also. But the West is pushing for a godless society. Let's make it very clear. And that's why I think New Age is so successful. Because there is a lot of people that really are aspiring to some spirituality. They can't find it, and they artificially construct this New Age.
You can't bypass God. It just doesn't work like that. I mean, you gotta go through God, and God doesn't like that stuff. So if you're actually going through God, you're gonna know it, and you won't do it. So I mean, that's how I feel. It's not,
Yeah.
So.
No, absolutely. But like we said, today's been a great episode talking about a subject that, of course, we tried to expand and analyze in a way that wasn't too New Agey. We showed also, a little bit of the New Age approach to it. We discussed the Masonic approach to it. But in the end, I think we balanced everything. And if you like this show, put a like, of course. If you want to help us, you have GoFundMe, you have Fundly, you have Cash App, which are also in the description of this. This is one of the books in the description of this video. Bruce is saying we have to admit that there actually exists natural law that we ourselves need to follow and get in tune with. The New Ages are looking for that, but their 4 steps are not necessarily the way to go. I think that is a basic, they're eager, they're aiming to something, to get something. And that's why, though, I think that their intentions might be genuine.
I don't know about that guy you were talking to.
No,
You say that, but he had way too much ego. I mean, you don't have such a big ego.
There is too much ego in these things.
Yeah, I mean, he acted like he knew something that you didn't.
That's the problem. Sometimes ego can get in the way. But I think that, having said that, from my experience last week, I noticed that there was still people that, meant with their heart. They were there with their heart. They wanted this betterment of humanity. The problem is that New Age is not the solution, guys. New Age is basically what socialism is offering us. Because if we go and see and study the roots of New Age, the New Age movement, we find socialism all over the place. So it's socialism, communism. It's not the kingdom of God. It's not the belief in God that is guiding them. And instead, that has to be the priority. Mm-hmm. In every spiritual journey,
everybody's life, and when you wake up in the morning, you have to put God first. That's it. I mean, that's it.
Absolutely.
And thank God at the end of the day. Be grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful to God, my children, and my doggy, and all my good friends. And I love you all, and I'm really grateful when I come here on Saturday and I see all these nice people, because it's hell out there. So I love you guys. Sorry, I have this is not waterproof because I've been trying new mascaras because I don't wear fake lashes. So, so we have to go now. So
God bless you, guys. Chrissy, I've become emotional at the end of the show. Thank you. The sponsors, Chrissy, the sponsors.
My eyes are going to start. Okay. Philippe Beller and Bruce Kodish and Pina and Mikhail Krug and everybody who bought the book. And everybody else that's here.
Thank you so much, guys. See you next week.
Everybody dance now. Saturday. Everybody dance. Saturday night. This is the only dance I'm doing, so. Saturday Night Fever.
Rambo today is sleeping.
He's sleeping. I want to wake him up.
I want to wake him up. Have a great week, guys, and a great weekend. And from Palm Springs, California, that's all. And a little bit more.